So, hi again to the second part of my little series about elderhood, wise women, and being an elder. And as I said before, I'm exploring the subject. And I kind of just hope that it gives you ideas and food for thought and so on. So, the following came out of a meeting at a gathering with younger people. And I asked them the question, what would you like an elder to be? What do you expect? What do you see as an elder or as somebody being an elder? And there were some interesting responses. What became quite clear is that an elder is really not a parent. So this is not about looking after. This is almost not about giving advice, but rather about guidance in a way. And they all expressed, which astonished me, a need for elders. They feel that elders don't exist. One of the interesting outcomes was that young people almost expect elders to have overcome and to be to a certain extent outside the normal norms of society. Now, I can understand that because if you're young, you should to a certain extent rebel. Otherwise, you never drive anything forward. It is almost your job to look critically at existing values, norms, ways of being. And they seem to feel that elders, wise elders, should support them in that, in the sense that they have also looked critically, that they also stand in a way outside the norms, that they see something bigger and something wider, but also in a way the future. And that was quite interesting for me to hear. So when I said before that an elder has in a way the freedom to be herself and follow her own wisdom, and in a way sets an example by living that, young people pick up on it and they will, not necessarily revere you, but they will respect you for that. That was one of the outcomes. So which I found very important to note. Another subject which on this gathering, but also in other places, was brought across to me was that elders should pass on wisdom without forcing, in a way, younger people out of their own experiences. So younger people need to have their own experiences and they need to make, to an extent, their own mistakes. And that's why I said before, elders are there to give guidance, pass on experiences and wisdom, but they are not there to be parents. So there is a holding involved for young people to have their own experiences while guiding them as good as we can. And that brings me back to the point that elders should, in a way, use their connection to something bigger and wider to bring the bigger picture to the table. That is their guidance. Plus, to maybe talk about their own mistakes they made and their ideas of how to use experiences for development and for change. But it is this connection to something wider and bigger, which young people expect elders to have, because they haven't got it yet, not to that extent. So we can bring a different perspective to the table. And with that, in a way, almost encourage people to think outside the box, to take the next few generations into account, to be more spiritually connected, whatever that means in that moment, and so on. So that was also interesting. And other interesting aspect, which I hadn't thought of at all, was the need for stories. Almost all of them expressed the need to know more about the past and about the experiences of older people. I had almost automatically assumed that this is kind of boring for them, but it is not. What I didn't want is these stories to be used to moralize or to push them in a certain direction. But so many expressed that they are interested in the stories. Now, this applied more to the people from the age of 30, 35 upwards. And it was triggered by the idea that many of us didn't ask their own parents about their experiences, or parents and grandparents were not willing to share them, because of course these are people who have lived through wars, through famines, who had very hard times and wanted to just get on with their lives and didn't want to open up old wounds. But it seems there is a real need for that. And that reminded me on what tribal elders, in a way, or the role tribal elders have, that they are the holders, the keepers of the traditions and the stories and the knowledge of tribal life. Now, this really astonished me. So, stories, nice one. Another point which was confirmed to me, which I mentioned in the clip before, was that younger people are interested in the idea that elders have to be comfortable with death and bring a certain fearlessness to the table. They are no longer concerned with the survival instinct, which is vitally important when you are young or middle-aged. The survival instinct really is quite strong and should be quite strong. But if we are comfortable with death and we are embedded in the wider field and know that it's the body that dies and something else, call it soul, call it spirit, lives on in a different form, that brings with it a certain fearlessness. And with that, we can hold the anxiety of younger people, and there is a lot of anxiety out there. We can see it at the mental health statistics, but also just if we open our eyes, from climate change to a fast-moving world, to social media, to insecurities, economic insecurities, and so on. Young people experience all of these, and quite intensely. So we can hold those anxieties without negating them, but also without being drawn into them. And that was a really important point of discussion I had with these groups, confirming in a way what I assumed already. Now, what I also found, and I liked that a lot, that people who attended these kind of workshops and powwows and gatherings have a good antenna for bullshit. They really, really would like us to walk our talk rather than just preaching, rather than knowing it all and coming in with a kind of parental energy. They understand somehow on a more energetic level whether you walk your talk, and then you get the respect. And I also like to know what actions we have taken in our lives and the action we still take. So there was a kind of idea, so what do you do? Rather than just what do you think or what is the wisdom you carry. There was a component of what do you do? And I feel we need to be very careful here that elderhood is not something where we become inactive. We must participate, still participate in whichever way we can. So this was the outcome of the few groups and gatherings with younger people I had the honor and pleasure to facilitate and to attend. I feel groups of elders should, if possible, be integrated into almost every level of society. But that's the subject of a different part of the series. So next, what I would like to do is to offer you a chance to do a journey to your own inner elder. So stay tuned for the third part of this little series, and I hope this gave you food for thought and inspiration. Bye.